The most misunderstood masterstroke of the NBA offseason. What if the most important move of the 2025 NBA offseason wasn't a splashy trade or a blockbuster signing, but a silent power play by a team that just walked away from a championship caliber roster? What if the Boston Celtics, instead of loading up again for another title run, willingly let go of two of their core veterans, actually got stronger? After winning a record 18th title in 2024 and falling to the Knicks in a brutal second-round loss, Boston stood at a dangerous crossroads. Most expected them to reload, spend big, and go all in one more time. But they didn't, and that's exactly why they might have just secured the next decade of dominance. This wasn't retreat. This was recalibration. While other franchises drowned in salary cap chaos, Boston saw the iceberg before anyone else did and quietly changed course. Under the NBA's new and unforgiving collective bargaining agreement, a team crossing the dreaded second tax apron isn't just slapped with fees, it's handcuffed. No mid-level exception, no salary aggregation, no sign-in trades, no flexibility in trades, and the worst part, repeater tax penalties that snowball. Teams like the Clippers and Warriors have already felt the burn of this salary prison. The Celtics refused to become the next cautionary tale, so they made a bold move. Trading Jrue Holiday, one of the best defensive guards in the league, and Kristaps Porzingis, a unicorn when healthy, would have seemed like sacrilege to many. But these weren't moves of desperation. They were moves of foresight. Holiday was approaching 35 and due $38 million. Porzingis, gifted but fragile, carried over $30 million in risk. Brad Stevens didn't panic. He moved Holiday to Portland for Anfernee Simons. He sent Porzingis to Atlanta and gained Georgia's Niang, plus a valuable trade exception. And just like that, Boston dropped below the second apron. They didn't dismantle their team. They re-engineered it. What most fans miss is what this actually unlocked. Falling below the apron gives Boston full access to the $13 million mid-level exception next year, the ability to execute complex trades, and the right to fully use future draft picks. They reset the repeater tax clock. And most importantly, they now possess financial leverage, something no spreadsheet can quantify, but every front office quietly envies. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Sidelined with a torn Achilles, likely won't return at full strength until late in the 2025-26 season. Boston could have made the mistake of charging forward without their superstar, gambling their future for a narrow present. Instead, they pulled back strategically. They gave the offense to Jaylen Brown and Derrick White. They added scoring firepower and youth with Simons. They opened the door for Pritchard and Queta to evolve into true rotational pieces. This isn't punting the season, this is planting seeds. Come 2026, the Celtics will have a healthier Tatum, a retooled supporting cast, and most crucially, the financial firepower to strike when the market is vulnerable. Other teams will be stuck, bloated with bad contracts, or handcuffed by tax penalties. Boston will be one of the few teams with both cap tools and star power. That's not just surviving, that's setting the trap. In a league obsessed with immediacy, the Celtics played the long game. They didn't spend the summer chasing headlines. They spent it quietly constructing a path to sustainability. That's not glamorous, that's not trending, but it's how dynasties survive the cap era. Think of 2025-26, not as a bridge year, but as a launch pad, a reset with purpose. By refusing to mortgage their future for short-term noise, Boston didn't close their window. They fortified it, and when the dust settles, this offseason might not just be remembered as Boston's smartest. It might be remembered as the one that let them build something bigger than 2024, something lasting, something terrifying for the rest of the league. Because the most dangerous version of the Celtics isn't the one you saw win banner 18, it's the one being built in silence right now. What if the answer to Boston's biggest question mark is hiding in plain sight, buried under the wreckage of another franchise's quiet collapse? No flashy trades, no blockbuster signings, just one name suddenly floating free, carrying the potential to fix a glaring flaw in a team still chasing banners. Nikola Vucevic. The Celtics are walking a tightrope into the 2025-26 season, balancing championship expectations with a front court that has more holes than solutions. Porzingis was moved, Kornet slipped away to San Antonio, and the Al Horford era is almost certainly over. What's left is a center rotation that leans on hope more than proven skill. Neemias Queta brings hustle, Luka Garza brings intrigue, but neither brings what Boston truly needs, a stabilizing presence with postseason experience and offensive polish. The type of presence that once wore green in the mold of Kevin Garnett or Robert Parrish, but that now exists as a void. The problem is not hidden, it's screaming, and so far, no one's answered. Free agency? Dried up. Trade market? Expensive. And uncertain buy low opportunities. Virtually non-existent until now, according to insider Jake Fisher from Bleacher Report. The Chicago Bulls are preparing to part ways with Nikola Vucevic via midseason buyout. Yes, that Vucevic two-time All-Star, walking double-double, and one of the most fundamentally sound offensive bigs still operating at a high level. At 34, he averaged 18.5 points, 10.1 rebounds, and 3.5 assists last season while shooting. An absurd 53% from the field and 40.2% from deep. These are not washed-up numbers. These are win-now numbers, and they're hiding in the shadows of a Bulls team spiraling toward irrelevance. The question isn't whether Vucevic fits in Boston. He fits like a glove, dipped in green. The real question is whether Vucevic would choose Boston. Right now, with Tatum recovering, with the roster reshuffling, with the window paused but not closed. Because what's often overlooked is this. Boston's current uncertainty isn't the sign of a fall. It's the setup for a resurrection. Vucevic isn't some Hail Mary. He's a plug-in starter who doesn't need touches to stay engaged. Can stretch the floor without becoming a defensive liability. Who can create out of the high post and punish mismatches in the paint. His passing alone opens up new dimensions for Boston's offense, especially for a team that will likely lean more heavily on Jaylen Brown and Derrick White. While Tatum ramps back up, his presence could help Boston not just tread water, but actually sail through the regular season and surprise people in the postseason. Let's be clear, this would not be about recreating the identity of the 2024 champions. This would be about surviving a transitional season with intelligence and quiet aggression. Brad Stevens has shown a knack for precision moves rather than panic, and Vucevic fits that mold perfectly. No sacrifice of future assets. No disruption of internal development, just a surgical correction to an open wound. Of course, the skeptics will ask, why would Vucevic accept a buyout just to join a team in flux? But here's the flip side. If Vucevic wants a taste of relevance again, a real basketball culture, and a chance to showcase his value for one last big contract or legacy run, there may be no better stage. Boston may not be favored in Vegas right now, but when has that ever mattered in the Garden? There's a reason this team is still feared. Culture, grit, standards, and beneath all of it, a vision that stretches beyond one season. Isn't a stop sign, it's a detour. And in the meantime, the Celtics can't afford to let their momentum rot. Vucevic is not the splashiest name, but in a league increasingly obsessed with stars, it's the right fit that wins titles. Remember what Al Horford did when he arrived in Boston? Remember what Dice gave this team when few expected anything? This franchise doesn't always need fireworks. Sometimes it needs fundamentals. So imagine this. February rolls around, Bulls are buried in the standings, and Vucevic suddenly becomes available. What does Boston do? If Stevens is watching closely, he knows the answer. Make the call, offer the minutes. Make the case, because while everyone else is watching the top of the standings, Celtics might be making the smartest move of the season, quietly filling their biggest gap with the most overlooked piece on the board. And just like that, hope isn't just hypothetical anymore. It has a name. Sacramento Kings have a plan that could drastically shift the balance in the West as they enter this offseason, aiming to solidify their core and make a serious push for the playoffs. The franchise is quietly eyeing a move that could not only reshape their roster, but also challenge the established hierarchy of the Western Conference. Imagine this, the Kings, a team that has battled for relevance for years, pulling off a move that would see a dynamic young point guard join the fold in exchange for veteran forward DeMar DeRozan, a player whose talents could prove invaluable. For a championship contender like the Boston Celtics, here's the reality check. Sacramento's playoff hopes last season crumbled under the weight of their playoff drought. They barely made it into the play-in tournament, and let's be honest, they've only been to the playoffs once since the 2006-07 season. That's a lot of years without the postseason, a lot of underwhelming campaigns, but the tides could be turning. For the Kings, thanks to strategic offseason moves like adding Dennis Schroeder, Nick Clifford, and Maxime Renaud to the roster. This isn't just a series of random acquisitions. The Kings are building a competitive roster with a mix of experience, skill, and upside, setting their sights firmly on securing a playoff spot in a brutal Western Conference. But the big move on the horizon, a trade with the Boston Celtics that could see DeRozan shipped off for a young, talented point guard like Anfernee Simons, plus an unprotected 2027 first-round pick. In this proposed deal, the Kings would send DeRozan and Keon Ellis to Boston, while also bringing in Georges Niang from the Atlanta Hawks in exchange for Terrence Davis. Boston, in turn, would send Sam Hauser to the Hawks for 3 second-round picks. This multi-team trade has the potential to be a game-changer, with massive implications for both the Kings and the Celtics. And here's why. For the Celtics, the addition of DeRozan could be a savvy move. Despite their changes this offseason, Jrue Holiday and reshaping their roster, Boston is still a contender in the Eastern Conference, with or without their former pieces. Jayson Tatum's Achilles tendon rupture is a major concern, and while he may miss significant time, DeRozan's proven ability to score and lead could be just what the Celtics need to keep their championship aspirations alive. His leadership and scoring versatility could help bridge the gap until Tatum is back at full strength, providing depth and flexibility that is crucial in such a competitive East. But here's the kicker. While Boston might value the stability that DeRozan could bring to a team in transition, the Kings' acquisition of Anfernee Simons from Portland could be the key to unlocking their playoff potential. Simons is a player with sky-high potential, and his addition could fill a glaring hole at the point guard position for Sacramento. Currently, the Kings are relying on Schroeder, but he may not be the long-term answer. Simons, with his elite shooting and offensive creation, could instantly take the reins as the starting point guard, bringing a new dimension to a team already stacked with offensive weapons. Why is this deal so significant? It's a bold statement from Sacramento. They're not just looking to improve, they're positioning themselves for the future. Simons would bring youth, energy, and the potential for stardom. The Kings are no longer content with merely being competitive. They want to compete at the highest levels. Adding a player like Simons could provide the necessary firepower to elevate their offense. Alongside established talents like Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, with a solidified point guard in Simons, the Kings' dynamic backcourt could become one of the most dangerous in the West, propelling them into the conversation for playoff contention. And let's talk about DeRozan. As much as Boston may want to hold on to Simons, DeRozan's experience and proven ability to perform in clutch moments make him a valuable asset for any playoff contending team. He's not just a scorer. He's a playmaker who can stabilize an offense, particularly when things get tight in the postseason. For the Celtics, this could be the perfect move to maintain their elite status while they wait for Tatum's return. DeRozan's leadership could fill the void left by Holiday, making Boston a more well-rounded team heading into next season. But don't expect this to be a simple decision for either side. The Celtics are still trying to craft the perfect roster for the future, and partying with a young, talented player like Simons isn't something they do lightly. After acquiring him from Portland in the Holiday trade, it's clear that the Celtics have plans for Simons. However, Boston's immediate need for veteran leadership and proven playoff performers may outweigh their long-term vision of developing Simons into a core piece. For Sacramento, this trade is a calculated risk that could pay massive dividends. They've been searching for the right pieces to propel them into relevance. The young, dynamic point guard like Simons could be the final piece of the puzzle. The ability to run the offense, combined with his shooting range and playmaking ability, could make him the perfect complement to Fox and Sabonis. If this trade goes through, the Kings could find themselves in the playoff picture, not just next season, but for years to come. Reality is this: Kings have been stuck in purgatory for far too long. Their path to contention has been obstructed by a lack of direction, but this offseason they're making moves that could shift the balance in their favor. Proposed trade with the Celtics sending DeRozan away in exchange for not only revamp their roster, it could elevate the team to new heights. Kings are making a statement, done being the underdogs. With right moves, they could soon be a force to be reckoned with in the West. In the end, Sacramento's future is looking brighter than ever. Not just focused on present, they're building for the long haul. A young, dynamic core in place, the Kings have the potential to surprise everyone and take their place among the Western Conference elite. As for Boston, while the loss of Simons would be tough, the acquisition of DeRozan could make them even more dangerous as they pursue another deep playoff run. This offseason could be the start of something special for both teams. And if it all plays out as planned, we may just witness a dramatic shift in the balance of power in the NBA.